He admitted he lied about a dealbreaker right after the wedding and now wants a divorce over it. 3 weeks into a marriage. 3 weeks. And already sitting across from the person she just vowed her life to, hearing him say the words she never thought she would hear. He lied. He knew exactly what she said, looked her in the eyes, and chose to lie anyway. And now, barely out of the honeymoon phase, he is already floating the word divorce like it is some kind of bargaining chip. Let that sink in for a second. Because this is not a small thing. This is not a misunderstanding or a miscommunication. This man heard her say this is a deal breaker, and then he made a calculated decision to hide the truth so she would walk down that aisle. So let us go back to the beginning, because the full picture of what happened here matters a lot. About a week before the wedding, she sat down with her then-fiancé and had a real, honest, vulnerable conversation. She told him clearly that joining the military would be a deal-breaker for her. She was not being harsh or controlling. She actually said outright that she had nothing against people who serve, that she respected them, but that the military spouse lifestyle was simply not something she wanted for herself or her future family. You have to picture this moment. She was not firing off a text or slipping it into some passing argument. She sat down and she talked to him, the person she was about to marry, the person she trusted with her future. She thought about deployment, about a parent being absent, about the danger, about moving around constantly and never having roots. She thought about what it would mean to raise children in that environment, to spend months alone, to live in a state of low-grade fear every single day. She had thought this through completely and carefully. She was not speaking from emotion in the moment. She was telling him who she was and what she needed in order to say yes to spending her life with him. And she probably felt vulnerable doing it. She probably felt exposed in the way that you only feel when you are telling someone your real limits and trusting them to honor that honesty. And what did he do? He told her it was not an issue. He told her he had no interest in joining. He looked at a woman asking him a direct, sincere question about their future together, and he chose the lie over the truth. Not because he forgot. Not because he was unsure. He knew. He admitted later that he had always had a dream of joining the military. Think about what that means. This was not some vague passing thought that suddenly crystallized after the wedding ceremony. This was something he had carried with him for a long time, something that lived inside him with enough weight that he was afraid to speak it aloud. He knew it mattered. He knew it would matter to her. And he still chose to bury it, to smile and say the words that would keep her moving toward the altar, because what he wanted in that moment was to secure the future he had imagined, even if it meant building it on a cracked foundation. Let us just sit with that for a moment, because it is worth unpacking. He was afraid she would leave him. So he took away her ability to make an informed decision about her own life. He decided for her. He essentially said, I know what you need, I know what matters to you, I know that the honest answer might change everything, and I am going to take that choice out of your hands because what I want matters more than what you deserve to know. There is something deeply suffocating about that kind of logic. It dresses itself up as love, as protecting the relationship, as not wanting to lose something good. But underneath it is just fear making a selfish calculation. It is someone looking at the person they claim to love and deciding that their own comfort is worth more than her right to choose freely. That is not love. That is control wearing a very convincing costume. And now here they are. 3 weeks after the wedding. He comes to her and says he wants to join. And he tries to soften it by saying maybe it would only be the National Guard, like that is supposed to make her feel better, like the word maybe changes what he did or what she said. She told him a year before any of this happened. She had already thought about the National Guard. She had already thought about every version of this, every branch, every arrangement, every possible caveat a person might throw in to make a no feel negotiable. Her answer was no, and it was always no, and he knew that. The word maybe is doing a lot of work in his framing, and none of that work is honest. Here is what makes this even harder to stomach. When she responded to him with grace, when she told him she did not want to stand in the way of his dreams, when she said she would support him becoming whoever he needed to be, he did not meet that with equal grace. He started talking about divorce. He started framing himself as the victim. The man who lied, who concealed a fundamental truth, who robbed her of the chance to make a fully informed decision about one of the biggest commitments of her life, he is the one now acting like he is being wronged. He sat across from her wearing the expression of someone who has been treated unfairly, someone whose dreams are being crushed, someone who is suffering. As if the suffering in that room was his. That is breathtaking. It really is. Because what she is dealing with is not just a disagreement about life choices. She is dealing with the fact that the foundation of this marriage was built on a lie. Not an omission. Not a half-truth born from fear or confusion. A deliberate, knowing, strategic lie told 1 week before she married him. The question she asked herself before the wedding was whether this was a life she wanted. But the question she is now having to ask is whether she ever actually knew who she was marrying. That second question is so much heavier. It reaches backward through every memory of their relationship and asks whether she was ever seeing him clearly or just the version of himself he chose to perform for her. She said she would not have gone through with the marriage if she had known the truth. And that is the most important sentence in this entire story. Not because it means the marriage is over, but because it tells us everything about what was stolen from her. She is not a controlling wife trying to trap him. She is a woman who asked a clear question, received a deliberate lie, and walked into a marriage that she might not have chosen if she had been told the truth. Her consent to this marriage was based on false information. She stood at that altar and said yes to a version of the future that he had quietly altered without telling her. That is not a relationship problem. That is a betrayal. And the cruelest part of all of this is how quickly he pivoted to making himself the injured party. She expressed her feelings, held her ground, and told him that her position had not changed, and his response was to invoke divorce. Not to apologize sincerely. Not to sit in silence for a moment and truly reckon with what he had done. Not to look at her and say, "You are right, I was wrong, I am so sorry for taking that choice from you." He went straight to the exit threat, as if saying the word divorce would make her fold. As if she is supposed to feel so afraid of losing the marriage that she will just let this go and quietly become the military spouse she explicitly said she never wanted to be. That pivot happened fast. Which tells you something. A person who reaches for the nuclear option that quickly was not reaching for it in desperation. They were reaching for it as a tool. That move is manipulative. Whether he intended it that way or not, using divorce as a response to her holding a boundary she communicated before the wedding is a pressure tactic. And she should not cave to it. Now, is there a path forward for this marriage? Possibly. But only if he is willing to do something that he has not yet shown any real willingness to do, which is take full, genuine, unconditional accountability for what he did. Not a sorry followed by a but. Not an apology that immediately redirects to his dreams or reframes her as the obstacle. A real reckoning with the fact that he took away her choice. He needs to understand what he actually did, not just feel bad that it came out. And beyond that, they would need serious couples counseling, serious conversation about what the future actually looks like, and a real commitment from him to be honest in a way he clearly was not before. That commitment would have to be demonstrated over time. Trust broken this way does not repair itself because someone says the right words once. But if he continues to frame himself as the one being held back, if he continues to weaponize divorce every time she holds her ground, if he is unwilling to truly sit in what he did, then she already has her answer. She deserves a partner who tells her the truth even when the truth is hard. She deserves someone who respects her enough to let her make her own choices with full information. What happened here was not a mistake. It was a choice. And it was made at her expense. The verdict here is not complicated, even though the pain of it absolutely is. He lied. He admitted he lied. He lied about something she explicitly called a dealbreaker. He did it to get what he wanted, which was the marriage, and then the moment he had it, he revealed the truth he had been hiding. That is fraud. That is not too strong a word. You do not get to deceive someone into a legal and emotional commitment and then act surprised when they are devastated. You do not get to call yourself a loving partner while doing exactly that. She did not fail this marriage. He did, before it even started. She should not let guilt about his dreams be used against her. His dreams are real and they matter, but they do not override her right to have been told the truth. If he truly loved her and truly wanted a future with her, the honest path was to tell her before the wedding and let her decide. He chose not to. He made that choice deliberately. She owes him nothing for the consequences of his own deception. And if he is serious about divorce because she will not agree to a life she always said she did not want, let him be serious. Because a marriage built on a lie, held together by one partner constantly compromising everything they said they needed, is not a marriage worth saving at any cost. She should know her worth. She told him who she was. She gave him every chance to be honest. He chose not to be. That is on him, not her. I sold my PC to fly to her prom, ended up in the hospital, and she asked for a break. He sold his gaming PC. $900. Gone. He did it without hesitation because he wanted to be there for her, wanted to stand next to her on one of the biggest nights of her senior year, wanted to fly across the country just to be present for something she cared about. And then he ended up in a hospital bed with swelling on his brain. Not a sprained ankle. Not a cold. A traumatic brain injury from a lacrosse game. Doctors telling him he cannot fly. Cannot travel. Cannot be anywhere but exactly where he is, which is the last place anyone wants to be when the person they love is getting dressed up for prom night without them. Let us talk about how completely and utterly devastating this situation is, because it deserves to be said plainly before anything else. This guy did everything right. He planned ahead, he spent money he did not have to spare, he was genuinely excited, and then his body got taken out from under him through absolutely no fault of his own. Think about what that planning actually looked like. He probably researched flights, checked dates, figured out logistics, made sure everything aligned so he could show up for her across the distance between them. That $900 was not a casual decision. For a lot of young people that is weeks of work, carefully saved, deliberately set aside for someone they love. He made a real sacrifice with real intention behind it, and the universe handed him a lacrosse stick to the head in return. He did not skip prom. He did not change his mind. He did not ghost her or let her down by choice. He got hurt in a way that could have been life-altering, and now he is lying in a hospital trying to process physical recovery while also watching the event he had been looking forward to happen entirely without him. That alone would be enough to break most people. But then comes the part that made his hurt go from painful to almost unbearable. She decided to go to prom, which is fair, which he even said he understood and supported. He did not ask her to stay home. He did not demand she skip her senior prom because he could not be there. He genuinely wanted her to have a good night. Think about how much emotional maturity that takes, to be lying in a hospital bed with your head hurting and your plans destroyed and your money gone, and still find it in yourself to say go, have fun, I want this for you. That is not the behavior of a jealous or unreasonable person. That is someone trying to be a good partner even while lying in a hospital bed. The part that cracked him open was who she was going with. Not just a friend in a group. A guy. Her date for the entire night. Pre-prom, dinner, the dance, after prom, the after-party. Every single moment of that experience, a different guy is going to be standing where he planned to stand. And he is lying there in a hospital, probably staring at the ceiling of a room that smells like antiseptic, opening his phone, and having to imagine that in real time. The corsage. The photos. The slow dances. Every little moment he had mentally rehearsed for himself was now playing out for someone else, while he could not even get on a plane. He said he had never cried over something she did before. And he cried over this. That sentence is doing a lot of heavy lifting, and it deserves a moment. When someone says they have never cried over their partner before and then they do, that is not drama. That is not immaturity. That is the kind of hurt that reaches something deep. He was not crying because he thought she was cheating. He trusted her. He was crying because he was in physical pain, out nearly $1,000, without his gaming setup, alone in a hospital, and the one thing he had been looking forward to was now happening without him while someone else got to be there in his place. That is a lot of loss stacked on top of loss stacked on top of loss, and he was still trying to be reasonable about all of it. He was swallowing every instinct that told him to be upset and trying to hold himself together for her sake, and the emotion just found its way out anyway. Because that is what genuine heartbreak does. It does not wait for a convenient moment. So when he finally did what the right thing said to do, when he opened up to her honestly about how he was feeling, he was careful. He held back. He tried not to make her feel guilty. He did not tell her not to go. He was deliberate about his words, measured in a way that most people in that amount of pain would not have managed. He thought about how she might receive it, tried to soften it, tried to communicate without unloading. He just told her the truth about how he felt. And she asked for a break. I need everyone to stop for a second and actually absorb what just happened there. This young man is recovering from a traumatic brain injury. He just lost almost $1,000 that he spent specifically to be with her. He is stuck in a hospital with no gaming PC, no way to fly home, and now no girlfriend. Because he was honest about his feelings in the most measured and considerate way he could manage. She said that worrying about him being in the hospital was too much. She said she was still in high school and wanted to enjoy her last year without having to worry about him. She asked for a break because of stress that, at least in part, came from the fact that he was seriously hurt. Read that back slowly. She found it stressful that her boyfriend was injured. So she asked the injured boyfriend to also absorb the weight of a relationship pause. That is the sequence of events. That is what actually happened. Let us be very clear about something. Feeling overwhelmed is real. Being a teenager navigating senior year while your partner is in the hospital with a brain injury is genuinely hard. No one is saying her feelings are invalid. But there is a significant difference between feeling overwhelmed and asking the person lying in the hospital to take on the additional weight of a relationship pause so you can enjoy your prom guilt-free. Those are not the same thing. One is an emotion. The other is a decision. And decisions have weight in a way that emotions alone do not. And the worst part, the part that is genuinely hard to read, is what he said after. He said he felt like it was all his fault. He said he genuinely wished he had never gotten hurt. Not because of the money or the prom or the PC. But because if he had not gotten hurt, none of this would have happened. Sit with that for a moment. He is in a hospital bed, recovering from swelling on his brain, and his primary emotional response is guilt. He is blaming himself for getting a traumatic brain injury. He is absorbing the consequences of her decision to pull back as if they are his fault, as if his injury was a personal failing, as if the correct version of events was for him to have been healthy and uninjured and able to stand there and be whatever she needed without any needs of his own. That kind of self-blame does not come from nowhere. It comes from a person who has spent so much energy trying to be considerate of someone else that he has started treating his own pain as an inconvenience he inflicted on her. That is heartbreaking. That is genuinely, deeply heartbreaking. The closing on this one needs to be said with care but also with total honesty. He did nothing wrong. Not one thing. He spent money to show up for her. He got hurt doing something completely unrelated. He tried to support her having a good prom even while he was in a hospital. He communicated his feelings carefully, held back to protect her, and still got handed a break request in return. The person who needed support in this situation was him, and instead of receiving it, he lost the relationship on top of everything else. She is young, and being young explains some of this. But it does not excuse leaving someone who is recovering from a brain injury because supporting them got emotionally difficult. Relationships ask hard things of us sometimes. Someone being hospitalized with a serious injury is exactly the kind of moment that reveals what a person is made of as a partner. And what was revealed here is that when things got genuinely hard, she chose her own comfort over his well-being. Again, she is young, and maybe she does not fully understand the weight of that yet. But he should understand it clearly. He needs to stop blaming himself. The injury was not his fault. Expressing his feelings was not his fault. Selling his PC to fly to see her was an act of love, not a mistake. None of what happened to him is a consequence of something he did wrong. He is going through one of the harder seasons a young person can face, and he is doing it with more grace and self-awareness than most adults twice his age would manage. He should focus on healing, on getting cleared by his doctors, on rebuilding slowly, and on remembering that someone who asks for a break while you are in a hospital is showing you something important about who they are when things get real. That information matters. And he deserves someone who stays. Drop a comment below and tell me which story hit you harder, because honestly both of these were a lot. If you are still here, hit that like button and subscribe, because we have got more of these coming and you do not want to miss them.